Everybody sees something different, and I think that's the magic of art. So to see that activated, whether it's young children looking at the leaves pattern on the decks and seeing the color and seeing the movement, or someone else is looking at the furniture, or someone else is looking at the structure that holds the leaves. Everybody sees something different, and I think that's been the fun part to just watch happen, and just to kind of see them exploring it in different ways is the really fun part.
So when you look at the fabric of a community, there's many aspects to that. It's the people, it's the businesses, it's all the other functions that are embodied there. And that embodiment many times takes the form of physical structures, whether it's a building, a church, a museum, or art in the public realm. The downtown has always been the heart of Janesville. And sometimes, you need to do some work on things to keep them, in the forefront, keep them fresh, keep them activated. And then also getting other things downtown, and whether it's new housing or new shopping or new office, to attract employers and jobs. In my mind as an architect, that all kind of gets rolled into that fabric of the community. The site we're at, which is called Town Square, was originally a 400-space parking ramp that was built over the river back in the 60s. At one point, the state of Wisconsin, as well as the Corps of Engineers, was going to no longer allow the city to maintain the structure. The city was very proactive in saying they wanted to remove it sooner than later, which is where part of the planning for the Arise Now came along. The idea of the Arise strategy was to identify sites in the downtown that were brownfield sites or that needed redevelopment. And we took this as a major redevelopment site. So the thought was to develop the east and west side as park spaces with public infrastructure in there and connect them with a bridge. We weren't sure if that would be called a footbridge or a pedestrian bridge or a river walk, but as the project began to develop and we became more involved with it, we saw how important it was to have this bridge in place when the east and west side were completed. I've never built a bridge before. It's the first time thing. I had no idea what it was like. And just the massive amount of materials they have to move in and out, the size of the equipment they had was amazing. I remember when they're driving the sheet piles to make the areas where they actually pump the river out to pour concrete, you could feel the ground vibrate when they're doing that. There's a number of things we had to overcome during the process. The river flooded, the Milwaukee Street Bridge was behind schedule because of the water levels, so we didn't have access to the river because they had their equipment there first. We had to wait for them to pull and move out. Then again, the water rose to a point where it wasn't safe for them to continue, so they had to delay the project. It sat for in winter, over the winter half done. And then, what was the thing that happened in 2020?
Pandemic?
Yes, that was it.
Yeah. We had named it the Heritage Bridge, but why heritage? We didn't want to just talk about the history, but we did think it was important to talk about the way that this place brought people to this city and continues to help it thrive. So there were 6 primary pillars that we identified. First, agriculture, the strength of agriculture that helped really found Janesville. And then we moved on to manufacturing, and everybody knows that this river created a pathway for manufacturing up and down. And then we moved into the merchants themselves, which again, this was the hub of merchant activity, including my family's business, which was founded here on Milwaukee Street back in 1955. And then after that, we need the civic structure, of course, proper way to plan a city and a growing city. And then we moved on to the arts. As people were growing here, their families, they needed entertainment and culture and the arts. And so Janesville Performing Arts Center, which is right down the river from us, was critical to not only early days, but now. And then last, of course, innovation, which allowed us to not only honor the innovation that has created our history here, but also allowed us a runway into the future.
We identified early on in the Arise strategy that public art can be a huge part to a community and really help it develop. Through that process, we interviewed a number of artists. The one artist that really caught our attention was Dee Dee Morrison from Greenville, South Carolina. She brought incredible depth of knowledge, empathy, and understanding of what we were trying to do and what the art could bring forward in a physical form to this project.
As we got to know Dee Dee, and she was here in town actually learning about Janesville and its culture and its people, she connected immediately with the resilience of our community. And her organic approach to things, again, really struck a chord with us, and out of that came resilience, the structure, the centerpiece of the bridge. So this organic form that was growing sort of out of the river, but it informed us about the opportunity to think always of this place and these people as resilient people, and this river itself and its resilience. We came down here as a family to watch the concrete pour early morning, which was fascinating, as Mick said, to see the equipment and the amount of concrete and how fast they had to work to actually get the bridge deck in. Again, I've never seen that done before.
Combs & Associates, one of our local surveyors, was actually using a laser and measuring different parts of the structure so that when we started building the art pieces, we knew where they were, how big they were. That information was transferred digitally to Dee Dee's designer, who actually did three-dimensional drawings of how everything would fit together. And regardless, how hard you measure and plan and pre-plan, some things always don't necessarily line up. They did some feel adjustments to the metal and actually got it to work. So it was a very complicated process.
My favorite part towards the end was as they were assembling each of those pieces of glass to create the leaves.
I forget how many pieces of glass made up the leaves, but those were in a trailer, and they assembled them one by one, then had to haul them back up to the top.
And they're all variegated, so there's different colors and different pieces. It was like a giant jigsaw puzzle. And to see each of those going up and the light starting to shine through that, and particularly as it reflected down or reflected across onto the buildings, was really, really cool. That was my favorite part.
And there's miles of wiring here too to control all the lighting that was added. So the technological challenges that were put together, and so we're very thankful we had a great team on the construction side for this.
Our goal in this was to be thoughtful of the people and how this could connect people. From the very night that we dedicated the bridge, in horrible weather, freezing weather, in the middle of a pandemic, and people were bundled up and came out here with their masks on to be a part of this and enjoy it. And as we stood back and looked at the sculpture and the bridge and the whole area, and there was literally a terrible storm threatening in the background, and we're in the middle of a pandemic, and I thought, this is resilience. This is why we did all this, and this is to continue to prove that you can beat all the odds and still do great things and do it together.
We both know Janesville is a great place, and it has a great story to tell. Having the bridge built and having the resilient structure there, I think that's kind of our way of helping tell that story. And I love hearing the kids play in the water fountain over in the bubbler or running on the bridge. Now they're beginning to tell that story too.
I see it over and over from completely new vantage points through their eyes, and how they're enjoying it and how they're seeing it through different seasons and how they're seeing it with their kids or their families. That's the thing that's really bringing us the most joy, is to see how people are using it and how they look at it. This is a place to pull people together. Janesville, of course, but the river specifically, that brought people to this community through 150 years. And so this heritage bridge would honor the story about how people chose this place and why they chose this place and why they continue to choose this place.